Now moving on to the next talk. Have you ever wondered about the options and strategies for migrating from one cloud provider to another, like migrating from AWS to GCP or GCP to Azure? Cloud migration service market's value is projected to be $515 by 2027. This clearly shows that organizations are migrating to the cloud and adopting them for its capabilities. Let's hear more on cloud migration and migration strategies from Ankit Adlakha. Ankit has been with the industry for 12 plus years now and is working with ThoughtWorks as a lead consultant. He is also interested in developing mobile apps and has released his own apps in Play Store and App Stores. Pairing with him is Shubham Deshmukh, a senior infra consultant with ThoughtWorks. Shubham has experience working on premises and cloud infrastructure and is very much passionate about the Kubernetes ecosystem. Over to you, Ankit and Shubham.
Yeah, thanks, Shweta. Let me share my screen. Yeah, is it visible now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. So welcome everyone to the session on evolutionary journey to the cloud using GCP cloud migration. Let us introduce ourselves first. Ankit.
Yeah, so I'm Ankit Adlakha, having 12 plus years of experience working as a lead consultant in ThoughtWorks, and professionally I am Google Cloud PCA certified.
Thanks, Ankit. I'm Shubham Deshmukh. I'm working as a senior consultant in ThoughtWorks, and I have 4+ years of industry experience. Cool. Let's look at the agenda for this session. We'll first start with the key trends in cloud migration and then move towards understanding what is cloud migration and why should we go for cloud migration. Then we go towards the cloud migration phases. What are the different phases in the journey of cloud migration, and followed by a demo. And then we'll see how to operate and optimize after the migration, and we'll see what is modernization in there. So let's start. Let's see the key trends and drivers for cloud migration. So according to Gartner, leading research and analysis firm, Gartner says that enterprise IT spending on public cloud computing will overtake the traditional IT spending in 2022. That is by 2020. In 2025. That is by 2025. Around almost two-thirds of IT spending will be directed towards cloud technologies. This shift to the cloud has only accelerated over the last 2 years due to COVID-19, as organizations responded to the new business. Technology and service providers that failed to adapt to this pace of cloud shift are now facing an increasing risk of becoming obsolete, or at best being relegated to the low growth markets. This is how important cloud has become within the software industry, and thus moving to the cloud. So, so let's understand what is cloud migration, right? So cloud migration is a process of moving applications, data, and other business elements from on-premise to the cloud. In simple terms, it's like sort of a physical move, but instead of packing up and moving physical goods, we are moving the digital assets of a company from one data center to another data center. Though cloud migration typically refers to moving from on-premise to a cloud, it can also refer to moving from one cloud provider to different cloud provider, right? So this was about what is cloud migration. Maybe obviously you may have known that, but why should companies that have a working setup on-premise should go for cloud migration? So there are multiple benefits of moving to the cloud. One of the most significant benefit is cost reduction in the cost. Cost is an important aspect in any company's growth cycle. Migrating to cloud can result in major reduction in the operating cost of your software. Providers offer services that lowers your operation overhead and simplify maintenance tasks such as upgrades. With this, you can devote more resources to innovation and like developing new products and or improving existing products. Let's take example of one example. Let's take example of Kubernetes, which is a famous container orchestration platform and also open source. If you want to deploy Kubernetes on-premise, right, you'll have to first buy some servers from a vendor, and then you'll have to configure that servers to install. You'll have to install some OS and configure the. Then you'll have to install. After that, you'll have to install Kubernetes on that servers, and then configure the master worker setting configuration for Kubernetes, right? And this does not end here. Then you'll have to regularly patch the OS or Kubernetes cluster, right? And whenever upgrade comes, you'll have to update. So this overhead and maintenance tasks can be reduced once you move to the cloud. Another benefit is you have different cloud providers at your disposal. With single cloud platform design, you are forced into using a highly integrated cloud provider specific tools. But with multi-cloud strategy, you can leverage the best of each cloud provider. You will not face, you can mitigate the issues like vendor locking with this strategy. One of the example of this is Anthos. That is it's a multi-cloud Kubernetes cluster provided by Google Cloud, which can with this you can spread your Kubernetes cluster across multiple cloud providers like Amazon and Microsoft. And most important, cloud is safe. What is safe? Scalable, available, flexible, and enhanced. With cloud, you can scale in no time to support a larger workloads and more users. Whenever a demand scales, like in case of Big Billion Days or Black Fridays, right? Your workload can be scaled for more users in no time. And you have tools and resources in cloud that will guarantee your application is highly available. Uh, highly available. With all of this, you only pay for what you use, and you will have no operation and operation overhead and maintenance. This kind of flexibility you get with the cloud. Additionally, you get built-in security features and enhanced security tools for your applications. And with that, you also get additional automatic patching and upgrades for your platform. Moving to cloud also ensures that you have faster deployment cycles and time to market. This is important for business growth for any company. Instead of buying servers and setting them up, you will be able to provision your servers and deploy your application in an instance. With this, and you can utilize the cloud to the fullest and optimize your application for cloud to increase the performance and lower the cost. With this, you will be able to achieve the best version of your application. Apart from this, right, there are other many benefits like simplified management, monitoring, and many more with the cloud. So this were the driving factor. This can be the driving factors for your migration to the cloud. Once you have decided moving to the cloud, what's next? That is next is you perform the cloud migration. But what to do? How to perform that? In cloud, you can execute the cloud migration in 5 steps. Each step has to be performed at organization level and might be unique depending on your drivers and business goals. First step is to opportunity evaluation and strategize. In this step, you first identify and gather the business goals and drivers for migration, which will further help in your planning. Business drivers can be cost reduction, security enhancement, faster time to market, etc. That all of this we saw in earlier slide, right? Once you have evaluated your opportunity, you go to the workload discovery and planning. In the discovery part, your data center team or any other team will document the entire footprint of your data center. This will give you the overview of the your overall workloads or IT businesses that you have. This documentation will include the mapping of this documentation will include the hardware mapping, software, and data storage layers. And in the next step, that is planning. Planning leverages the assets and deliverables that you gathered in the discovery phase to create a migration waves. Migration waves are nothing. Migration waves are nothing but a grouping of similar application together for migration, so that you can perform migration in batches. For creating a migration waves, you consider factors like application dependencies, timelines, upcoming releases, migration complexity, and risk, and most important, the testing time. Here we also identify, in this stage, we also identify the migration strategy out of 6 R's. We'll look at the 6 R's in the next slide later. Right. After this, right, after you have planned your migration and identify the strategy for migration, the next stage comes is actual migration. At this stage, you can perform once you come at this stage, right, you can perform a small POC to check if everything is working, and then go for actual migration, which you can perform in waves that we have planned in earlier stage. You can migrate applications, then test the migrated application on the cloud, and then do a cutover from the on-prem. And this cycle will continue for each wave. After this, once you have migrated, you need to do a periodic review of and planning to optimize, adapt, and utilize continuously utilize the new tools that are available in the cloud. So yeah, this is how you can perform your migration. Now in the planning phase, we looked at the 6 R's of we talked about the 6 R's of migration strategy, right? What are the 6 R's? So software has many components, okay, and mostly you will apply different strategy for different components of software. So this in that case, right, this 6 R's of migration strategies can help you. So we'll look at two simple strategies first: retain and retire. Right, in your IT portfolio, you may have applications that are not compatible with the cloud, or that are vendor locked in. In such cases, it makes sense to keep your application on premise as it is. So one more reason for retaining the application is regulations and compliance. You may know that that in financial sector there are or banking sector there are many regulations like regarding data storage and security, right? In that cases, you can keep your data applications that are data intensive and that require security, right, on-premise, and other application you can move to the cloud, right? And in the case of retire, right, you might have applications that are no longer needed in your portfolio. Once in discovery or evolution phase, right, or you might have find these applications there that are just stayed there and are of no use in your application life cycle. Such services can be turned off, which enables our organization to focus on more areas which provides some more business values, right? And it's also important to remove these services at early in the migration phase to reduce the wastage of time or resources. But yeah, you must understand the dependencies of the workload before retiring anything, otherwise you'll make a mess. So remaining strategies we have grouped into 3 different logical groups, okay, that are sustain, optimize, and grow. In sustain, we have rehost strategy. Rehost is a simple strategy. In rehost, we simply take out our workload that is deployed in on-premise and move it to the cloud as it is. Like we take out our workload that is running on data center or on-premise VM and move them to the cloud VMs. This strategy is comparatively less time consuming, and you don't need cloud expertise for this. But it may look simple, but with this, just redeploying your application to the cloud, you can save up to 30% of your cost. that so this is a best strategy to take if you have less time in your hand and less time and cloud expertise. Okay, so here you'll not optimize your application as such, right? So if you want to optimize your application as well, you have two options. The first option is replatform. In replatform, where you make few configuration changes to your application to better suit it to the cloud environment. For the common approach for is to change how apps interact with databases so that it can run on Amazon RDS or Google Cloud SQL, right? So you make minimal configuration changes in your application so that it can support the cloud platforms, right? And another approach is repurchase. It's also called a drop and shop, right? So, it's typically a SaaS. It's a strategy where you typically move to a new SaaS platform. For example, moving your CRM platform to Salesforce or your HR system to Workday. And the next is in the next strategy is refactor. In refactor, strategy, you utilize the full potential of the cloud to use technologies like serverless, Lambda functions, microservice architecture, containers, and load balancers to achieve the optimal to reduce your cost and increase your performance of application. This results in application with latest features, scale, and performance. So and if you have this is the best option if you want to grow your application and you have time in your hand and resources in your hand. This approach is most extensive in resource wise and time wise, but will prove worthy in long term. And if you don't have time at the hand, right, at this moment, you can do a reverse strategy where you just move your application to the cloud VMs, and then slowly you can optimize your application. So you are combining two strategies, reverse and refactor, in this. So these were all the strategies in the cloud migration. I'll hand over this session to Ankit now.
Yeah, thanks, Shubham. So next thing is around the migration fit assessment tool. So I hope by now most of you like got the understanding around the cloud migration or like why cloud migration. Then another thing which comes is like whenever we start something new, then the first or the most question which comes into our mind is like where to start or like how to start. I think in case of Google Cloud migration, Google has answered it pretty well, and they have provided a tool which they call as MFIT tool. So this tool one can basically use and which can be like executed against your existing platform setup. And it basically covers up the three different phases. One is the discovery phase where you will discover your overall infrastructure. The tool get executed against your infrastructure, identify all the VMs, and then it basically does the next phase of the assessment where it goes through the all infrastructure, look at the different configurations, CPU, memory, and what all different applications running onto those specific infrastructure machines. And then after doing the assessment, it basically do the step of like recommendation where it prepares some sort of a report with which you can look at like what all are the recommended options like to do the migration into the Google Cloud. So next is like I'll walk you through the reports which MFIT prepares like whenever you run it against your infrastructure. So this is a report which we basically prepared while executing the MFIT for one of the AWS based EC2 machine, where where in this basic report we get the details of like what all are the different virtual machines you have, what all are its configuration, and it gives you whether it's a right fit, or there is some additional effort required, and gives you a high level cost analysis as well. Like if you will migrate it to, like suppose, to the VMware engine, then what exactly would be the cost, monthly cost, which will come up, and if you will like refactor it to containers, then what would be the estimated monthly cost. So based on this basic report, the stakeholders like can decide from the cost perspective, like whether they want to migrate it now, or whether they want to partially migrate, or to migrate few specific components. And apart from that, this basic report, it gives you a full report as well, like whether your infrastructure is like a good, excellent option to like shift it to the Anthos VM on a bare metal option, or like do a containerization with Anthos and GKE, or like, or just on GKE, or to use like Cloud Run as a containerized option, or like simply migrate it to the bare metal machine, which is a compute engine, or if we want to just migrate it to the VMware engine. And apart from that, it also shares the details like where the technical team can use this particular report to look at the further analysis, like which all things are good fit, and which all information it has captured, or which are different information is missing. And based on that, then technical team can also like decide whether they want to go ahead with the migration, and on which particular option, whichever is recommended as per this tool. So this is around this MFIT tool, or the report which it prepares and gives you the required recommendation. Then next is like migrate for compute engine. Now, suppose if you have decided like you want to migrate to the compute engine, then how you will be basically going to perform this particular migration. So for that purpose, basically when you log in into your Google account in the Google Cloud Console, so under the compute engine, you get an option of like migrate to virtual machines. And then here you need to perform all the required different steps to basically perform the overall migration. So first is like you will be adding up a source, like from where you will be migrating into the Google Cloud. Like what exactly is your source? Your source could be like your on-premise system. Your source could be your another AWS setup. Then first you need to set up that particular account. Like if I'll talk about this AWS thing, then you need to provide the details, like from which particular AWS region you want to migrate, like, and you also need to create one account as well, and need to provide the key ID and the access, so that from the Google Cloud your AWS infrastructure is accessible. And once you provide and save these details, then the corresponding machines will get listed down here. And then depending upon whichever you want to migrate, you can basically select that those particular machines and just put it into for the next step, which is add migration. And once the machines are available for the purpose of migration, then first step is to basically do the replication. And as a part of replication, what it does is it basically creates a snapshot and copy that particular snapshot within the Google Cloud. And then once the replication step is done, then you need to decide like corresponding to your source machine, what would be your target machine. Then basically you can provide the details of your target machine, like instance name, in which particular project you want to do the migration, what would be the zone, or what would be the additional machine configuration or the networking thing which you want to place. And once this is done, then basically replication is completed. You have provided the target details. The next step would be around to test that particular migration. Like once you initiate the actual migration, whether that will get performed successfully, or will there be any chances of any failure or something like that. So first step is to basically do a test clone. And in this case as well, like it will be provisioning one test machine in the Google Cloud, and it will like use that particular replicated snapshot and provision that VM, and then one can like basically go and verify like whatever was the source application which was running on a source VM, and whether that has been migrated or not, or was there any issue. Then depending on that, like after doing the test verification, one can basically do that cutover step, and within this cutover step basically it will create the virtual machine as per your target, and that would be your production ready migrated VM into the Google Cloud. So these are the steps which we generally follow, like if you want to migrate one virtual machine from any of the source to the Google Cloud into the compute engine. So on a high level, I have just given a walkthrough of all these steps only. Like first you onboard your source, you will initiate the replication, you set your target VM, you do the test cloning, and then you do the cutover where it will shut down your source VM, it will do the final sync, it will then stop the replication and create the new production ready migrated instance. The next is like, so this overall migration process has like different phases, and it comes up with a lot of challenges as well. So one challenge would be around the cost. Like, so suppose your existing setup is currently up and running on another cloud or on your on-premises system, then to basically look around migrating to the Google Cloud, you need to parallelly start setting up the infrastructure into the Google Cloud, where for a initial period of a time you will incur a extra cost apart from whatever you are spending on your existing setup. So that we need to consider, like from the cost perspective, like whether we are ready to start the migration thing or not. Then another is like lack of strategy. So whenever we are like migrating to cloud, we need to like define the strategy. We need, because like Google Cloud or any other cloud providers has lot of offerings corresponding to all different resources. Like in compute also, like there are multiple offerings available, but then we need to understand like as per our application setup, our requirement, like which exactly would be the good fit for us. So that strategy need to be defined, and it should be understandable to the whole team, so that a particular thought process is followed during this overall migration. Then we need to consider the security and privacy as another thing. Like so security is not just an option which is like or just a responsibility of a cloud provider. It's a shared responsibility, like where cloud providers are like providing different resources, tools which can be used for the purpose of like setting up the security. But then it depends on us, like as per our need, as per our internal guidelines, how we want to configure them. So it comes as a shared responsibility. Although the cloud providers do some recommendation, like we can like apply this sort of configuration to enhance it further and all that. Then another is like adoption resistance or a skill shortage. So here we need to understand, like as a team, are we like ready to start this migration journey? Do we have a right set of skills or not? And do we have right set of documentation to be followed? Are we like able to understand those sort of documentation or not? So all these things like comes as a challenges as well, like whenever we start on migrating to any particular cloud. The next is operate and optimize. So here, like for example, you have like migrated few of your component into the cloud. Then it's a continuous process of like operating and optimize. Like for example, like so within a cloud, you can provision lot of different resources with just few clicks. So as a team, we need to understand from the cost perspective, like whether whatever we are provisioning is actually required or not, or are we provisioning it with a right set of configuration, like from the perspective of CPU or memory, or so that the cost will be in a controlled way, I mean, utilized in our overall setup. I mean, we can use Google Cloud Calculator to check the estimated cost for any particular setup, or we can set up a different set of budgets and alerts as well, so that the cost can be controlled easily. Then another is like we should have a continuous check on the security, because it cannot be possible like in a first go we will set up the overall security. It's a keep on enhancing thing which should be considered, like once in a quarter or once in a month we should keep on reviewing whatever be the security configuration has been applied, and whatever be the further recommendation coming up, like from the cloud perspective as well. Then we need to look from the performance or the optimization perspective as well. Like if we are using few resources, then with the help of monitoring suite, we can look around the different metrics, is like how our application is behaving, what exactly is the performance it is giving. Do we need to really do some optimization? Like for example, if you have some sort of application which is like listening to some messaging or a streaming system like Kafka or RabbitMQ, then there in that case, if I'll just consider an example from the one Java application, a Spring Boot Java application listener, that can be like deployed on a cloud run, or it can be deployed on a Google Kubernetes engine, or apart from this, we can use Google Cloud data flow jobs as well. But then we need to understand what type of load we are expecting on our messaging system, and how exactly do we want to get them the process completed. And we also need to understand, like, do we like good to like have some sort of operational work, or we just want to go in a fully managed way so that there is a less operational work. So all these different factors we need to consider time to time, so that we work in an optimized way in our overall setup. Then next is like whenever we are working on any large scale enterprise project, then in that case we should consider having a CCOE thing as a separate team, I would say, which is like a cloud center of excellence, which with which like we can set up some sort of predefined templates, like for the purpose of provisioning different sort of resources in the cloud, and a specific standardized pattern can be followed across the overall project. And as a developer or a development team, the team can just focus on working on the functional stuff, and all the infrastructure related thing can be followed using those templates with a specified pattern in the overall project. So next is modernization. So with the concept of cloud migration, there is a concept of modernization as well. So with Google, like considering the overall end-to-end setup. So at each different phases or stages, I would say, there are a lot of offerings around the different resources and the tools, like from the code perspective, we can use the cloud source repositories, or for the setting up of pipeline, one can use the cloud build, or like for the purpose of storing the artifact or the container artifact registries, or the container registries can be used. And like from the application perspective, so there are like different offerings from the compute perspective, like one can use the compute engine, one can use a containerized option like the Cloud Run or Google Kubernetes engine. And in a similar way, a fully managed setup is also available, which is like App Engine one can use, or one can use a Cloud Run as well. And then apart from this, from the database as well, like depending upon the kind of data or depending upon the kind of need, one can basically choose different database options like SQL, NoSQL, or if there is a need of any sort of analytical database as well. Like we can have a Firestore, one can use from the relational perspective, Cloud SQL, or a fully managed Cloud Spanner database. There is an option of Bigtable or a BigQuery as well. So that's around the modernization. So with this, yeah, thanks everyone. If there is anything further we want to discuss, you can reach out to us on our LinkedIn profile. Yeah. Do we have any question?
For now, we don't have any question. We'll wait for like 1 or 2 minutes for questions. If we don't have them, we can move on, I think.
Sure, yeah.
No questions? Anyone? Okay, great. We'll move on. Thanks a lot, Shubham and Ankit, for such an insightful session.